I must have scared half of you guys out of here. I'm sorry. Hello, everybody way in the back. How's it going? All right, so who am I? I'm David Girvin. I shouldn't be in tech. People made mistakes. I ended up here. I'm really not understand. I have a background as a ship captain and an engineer and stupid things like that. But somehow I hacked my way into tech. And I've worked for some companies like 1Password and We Act Purple and Bit Discovery, and now I am a senior product engineer, product security engineer of architecture. I don't know. I have some stupid title that I don't really care about, but it works. So I have a very different view on how these things should be, and I think one of my values in the industry is I see when things suck. So I'll be pointing out things that suck and making fun of everybody in different places. If you're in sales, I'm already sorry, because I make fun of you a lot. But those are my kids and my wife who are way too good for me, and yeah, some other weird things in there. I don't need to read them all, right? Okay, what are we going to talk about? We're going to outline building an AppSec program with a different perspective on management and integration. I'll go over the cool tool stuff and technical SDLC and all that kind of stuff that you need to have in place, but everybody talks about that stuff, right? It's not a big deal. You can look up any of Tanya Jenka's stuff, and there's a million things on how to set up your tooling and everything. But I'm more interested in social engineering for good. I used to do it for bad. Now we do it for good. I'm not one of those I went to college and was a good person. I was a crappy person and very good at sneaking into places and figuring these kind of things out, and went the other direction. And now I try to do it for good. I have some interesting thoughts. AppSec is sales. If you suck at sales, you suck at AppSec. So these are skills we can all learn and think differently. Being a part of a team is super important to me, and everything I failed at, which is a lot of things. So I'm grossly incompetent. Warning, concepts and thoughts are based on anecdotal experiences from building application security programs at places like 1Password and all these other fancy companies. If you disagree with it, it's perfectly fine. If you need to email me and complain about my talk or any views I have, that is my email address. If you find me abrasive and sarcastic but somewhat charming, you are correct. So, and if you hang toilet paper over the back of the roll, please leave now. You're not welcome in this talk because you're a psychopath. So what can we think about here? Syllabus. This is what we're going to run through. I don't need to read all this stuff, right? But these are things that, and you can grab my slides. Just hit me up on LinkedIn or whatever, or maybe we'll put it on the website. I don't know how besides Augusta works, but I have a bunch of this stuff in here, and these are great blueprints. When you're thinking about, and it just doesn't go for just AppSec. I use this for everything because I build out programs, teams at our company. I love hiring and that kind of stuff too. So, okay, what is AppSec? Application security or product security is a team program designed to protect all of your code you own. That means everybody that has code should have an AppSec team, no matter how small the company, unless you farm it out, which is fine too. That includes the code your engineers write, as well as third-party libraries and open source tools you use. Yes, if you hack together a bunch of crap using every third-party library known to man, you are still responsible for that. It's also tools that you use. You're running all these open source tools. There's a vulnerability in there. You are responsible. It's a strong relationship with engineering and C-level stakeholders. I know I look like a cartoon and someone who does not speak well. I've spent most of my life chasing surf around the world. I'm not like a normal human, and I can still speak to the C-level every day and do. It's internal sales. You are selling to your engineering team because they don't like you. Because you're the dickhead who said, your code sucks, now you got to fix it. And they said, I spent 7 months building it that specific way because I thought it was right. That's a big hurdle to get over. We'll go through that, don't worry. It's a smart use of tools and testing. I should have bolded smart there because everybody throws every tool they can find, especially open source ones, that stuff, and that's not really the way to go. It's an understanding that if business doesn't flow, there's no product secure. This is a huge issue in AppSec, and we're starting to mature in a way that's really interesting, and we're seeing that we are actually a part of the business. If we don't produce profit, we do not get paid, so we can't just roadblock everybody. We have to relax a little bit. We can't just push our glasses up and scream. It's not old school grumpy gatekeeping. If you're that guy, stop it. No one likes you. at all, especially people like me who come from outside the industry. I worked in construction for years on the engineering side of things. Those guys exist there too, and no one liked them there either. It's not dumping 1,000 vulns on engineering and saying, fix it. This is, I do consulting with my company, it's called Honey Badger Engineering for a reason, because it's just ridiculous. But anytime I get called into consulting, that's happened. They started an AppSec program and they said, screw you, I ran SAST. Yelling when something can't get fixed right away, you have to be the nicest person in the world, or at least be sarcastic enough to convince people that you're nice. Building a wall and starting a war with engineering, that is how you ruin a program immediately. And I've picked up the pieces from multiple people who started it that way because they were way better at AppSec than me, but they weren't good at this side. Why spend money here? Yeah, there's a lot of memes. I'm like 12, so I'm really older than I look. But 2020, the average cost of business affected by a data breach in the United States is $8.64 million. That's a lot of money, especially since half of cybersecurity companies, in my opinion, are vaporware, and they're put up by VC companies, and they're just trying to get absorbed. So if you lose money and you don't make money, guess what? You're double suck. So reputational damage can be far worse than the original dollar lost. I am huge on this. So I threat model companies a lot of the times and do SWOT analysis for their space because I am a nerd on the side with business, which is very opposite. But my day job is very nerdy, but I nerd out on like how business works and like, you know, the two big companies I worked for, which was 1Password and Red Canary, I told both of them their biggest fear shouldn't be the data actually lost, which would suck. I mean, obviously. It's if anybody ever lost trust with them. Because people trust their password manager and they really trust Red Canary. They literally have all of your telemetry from every single endpoint you have in your company. So it's a different kind of way to start thinking about it. It's estimated that we lose $250 to $600 billion of intellectual property being stolen every year. That's why you go to China and you see all the BMWs, but they're not BMWs, and they weigh like 6,000 pounds. It's very strange. Hopefully your insurance mandates it. I know insurance is a bad word, but we need it for policy and regulation and stuff, not in the real world, but in cybersecurity. It's not 2004, and you're a damn adult. That's my favorite line in this whole thing, because I keep telling myself that every morning in the mirror. I try to tell myself that. All right, first one. Let's go over hiring. Controversial take. Soft skills are more than important than being a SME. I know, this is really weird. I know, exactly. It just, if you didn't hear the breath on the recording, it was there. Hot takes are so hot right now. If you're a jerk, nothing will get done in AppSec. This is not pen testing. I love pen testing. I'm an offensive security guy. If I could just break crap and laugh all day, I would. I mean, it'd be amazing. But that's not the reality. Your first hire, in my opinion, all this is my opinion, right? I'm full of crap anyway. So 50-50 mix of amazing soft skills and application security. If you can find that one guy or lady or whoever is going to be, I don't want to say your principal engineer, but whatever. Everybody needs someone that's going to mentor well. You need that person to be balanced. If they're just super technical, but they suck at talking to people, they will not mentor well, I promise you. And if they're not technical enough, but they're really friendly, well, then they're going to look stupid in a meeting at some point if they're the upper range of people. I've been that person multiple times. High level of understanding of AppSec's okay. You know, around the people that I work with some of the best engineers, in my opinion, in the world. I would say that I'm non-technical. I'm obviously technical. I code and I break and all that kind of stuff. But Matt Graber is one of my colleagues. I am not sitting there finding new DLL injections for Microsoft before they hit the market and that kind of stuff. But, you know, I have a very good overarching understanding of how security works because I'm a bad guy. And I love that part of it. You don't need 10 years of dev experience. Stop trying to find the unicorn. Everybody for AppSec's like, I want to get that senior web engineer who fell in love with security and works 10 hours a day and then studies for 4 hours a night and never talks to their family. That's the guy that I want. And I wanted to do it for $100,000 a year. That person does not exist. And if you do find him, guess what? Someone like Dragos or someone else is going to grab him and pay him $250,000 a year, and you're like, dang it. So don't look for that. You need to find people from everywhere. You need to find good bridge builders. This is a huge, huge, huge deal. It's such a hard skill to find. It's very easy to burn bridges. But you need to look for that in your interview process. And you know, I'm the extrovert that adopts all the introverts in my company. On like quarterly hackathons, we all meet up in Denver. I take everybody that doesn't have friends, basically. They have friends, but not in the office, right? And I take them to the bar and buy them steak and make them get drunk and talk to people. And that's also kind of like how I pair up people on my team. If you get someone who's just this awesome software developer and they want their soft skills to work, you need to buddy that person up with someone who's going to let them grow, and they'll grow them too. I mean, I have a guy who's wrote half the code for SimGrep on my team now. I'm very thankful I stole him. But he helps me with my like deeper Python understanding, and I help him not tell engineers they're stupid. It's a mutual relationship, and it's wonderful, and we're good buddies. If you just walked in, I'm super sarcastic. I don't really call my engineers stupid. They're way smarter than me. AppSec has insane salaries. You probably can't afford it. If you can, then build a better team than me and do the talk. Like, right? Like, I wish I could just pay everybody $250,000. And this is just a plug for me. Funny, sarcastic people can be great bridge builders. We work primarily with engineers. It's a different audience than traditional InfoSec. And that's really true. GRC people, CorpSec people, in my opinion, you want a different personality type. They're more the disciplinarians in reality, because they have to be. They can enforce those things. You know, if you're downloading some sort of malware porn thing on your workbox, then you should be told you're being stupid, right? Like, that's not a. But you know, if you're dealing with super smart engineers and you're like, I just don't think we should use that library, you shouldn't be forceful. You need to learn. You know, it's a different vibe. Yes, that is literally. I have a baby about that old. I think she made that face to me earlier. And I never noticed that. So, hiring. Opposing view. Hire rockstar security developers, fix all the bad code. So I have friends like Jim Manicode and all these like super famous AppSec people who are all developers, and they're like, no, we don't need AppSec teams. We need real security developers. And they go in there and they fix everything for everybody, and that's their job. And I'm like, well, one, if you get in a really deep code set like we have, you're not gonna, unless you're in that deep every day, you have no idea what's going on there, you know? People should write notes in their code, but they don't. So no one knows what's going on. You're just trying to figure things out, and you don't have time for that. But two, that does not scale at all. So even if you can find them, it's very hard. There's not enough of them, so it will never scale. Like, that's great when you have 100 people, right? What about when you have 10,000 and 8,000 of them are developers? I mean, we have to be able to scale in AppSec, or you end up like all the other companies that get breached because they don't have web security, right? What else did I write here? I forgot. They can easily become a block for engineering. I see that all the time because it becomes shmee versus shmee. It's like, no, I'm smarter than you, and I'm smarter than you, and everybody's so smart, and then nothing gets done, and then everybody's like, I don't talk with that team now because they're dickheads. Like, that's your biggest fear. That's how you should go into AppSec. It's like, we want to be the cool guys. Okay, so this is a big deal for me. Leadership. I'm really, really, really passionate about leadership because from coming from multiple industries and coming into a leadership position in security kind of right off the bat and being in tech, leadership sucks in tech, especially in security. And I have some great friends of mine I've had some hard conversations with because I see how they lead their teams, and not at our company. Like, we're just friends. And I'm like, you're a dick. Like, don't do that. Like, you need to change things. And they don't even get it, you know? A lot of people were just really good at what they did, and they got put into leadership, and that's not necessarily the best skill set for that. So this is where many teams fail. Good security person isn't necessarily a good team leader. If your team leader doesn't genuinely care about the individual success as well as the teams, you get shitty middle management, and there's so much of it. It's all as far as the eyes can see. That's the meme I should put there. Man, so don't ever forget that your HR team, this is their job, and they forget this, needs to build out paths to success for individual contributors and people leaders. Such a big deal. Like if someone can't get to principal and make great money, the only way to make good money is to go into the leadership and people leading, but they suck at people leading. Guess what? Everybody suffers for that. So, have hard conversations with HR people about this kind of stuff because it's important, especially if you want to retain talent, because talent will leave in a heartbeat. So my things, servant-minded leadership. This means your customer-focused team. You're leading your team, so they're your customer. So you're customer-focused all the time. You're actually focused on your team members' success and leading from the front, doing the work. You're the block person. You're not throwing your team under the bus. If your team screws up, you take the hit. It's hard stuff, It's really difficult to get your brain around that stuff sometimes, especially when they do something really stupid. But everybody around me with and I'm not even the director right now at our company. I'm actually some weird, shitty middle management thing. But I care about all the guys on my team. I guess I'm the lead engineer or something. So when we have one-on-ones, I'm actually asking them hey, dude, what do you want to do? What's going to be interesting? Where do you want to go with your career? How can I help you with that? And even if it means them going somewhere else, these are real people. It's not just about you and the company. But when you do that and people see the sincerity of it, they bust their ass for you. Not only do that, but they do better work. They feel more comfortable. And there's not this I have to get over this person on the team and I have to be better than them and blah, blah, blah. It cuts all that crap out. We have a very honest company. I just turned down a giant pay raise to leave my company and go do a CISO job somewhere else. And I won't because there's such good leadership there right now. So it's trickled down. Humility and honesty makes up for not knowing everything, gives team the chance to shine. Yeah, oh man. If you can lead from the front with, I don't know that, does anybody else know the answer to this? I don't want to make the wrong decision here, and you give someone else a chance to step up and show that they knew something there, it's such a big boost, especially for younger engineers. You got guys in their 20s, that means the world. I've actually had guys Slack me after meetings and be like, dude, thanks for giving me the chance to talk about that. It meant the world to me. And I'm like, cool. Yeah, I didn't know, and I didn't want to sound like a dick. So I said, I don't know. It's always worse to try to be know-it-all boss guy. Honest visibility. Be open where you're crushing it and where you need help. Such a big deal. We have a my team is very mean in a loving way. We're all actually tight. We make fun of each other constantly, but we're also incredibly honest with everything. When we know we suck at something, we're just open about it because we don't worry about getting fired because we're all tight. We're not trying to throw each other under the bus. When it comes to some of my code, I'll be like, my code is trash. Please don't look at that. You can go fix it. I'm going to go run a tool and make some speech somewhere, and then we'll be good, And they know that. Taking responsibility for your failures and learn to care about other people, which is so difficult. Have you guys met people? Have you ever driven a car? People suck, and you have to somehow care about them every day as the boss. That is so hard to do. Just driving from Rome, because we were evacuated, my families were from Florida, staying at my buddy's house to drive over here to do this talk today. I have my kids in the back, and I'm trying to hold it together, I'm going to murder half the people on this road because people are driving like idiots. And I have my kids in the car. And then I always think about this, and I'm like, these are people, the real people, somehow I have to care about them. I don't know how to do that right now. But when it comes to your team, people are going to be butts, and you just somehow have to be okay, well, I'm leading, and this is servant-minded leadership, which is I'm just going to kind of figure out how to make your life better to where you stop being a butt. And I'm going to tell you you're a butt. So that's an important part of it, too. It's that honesty part. That guy. This guy haunts my dreams because both companies I came in, there was this guy. And this guy burned so many damn bridges. I have bought so many beers, so many dinners, had to talk about the stupidest thing. Why are some people into small dogs? I don't want to hear about your dog. But I will do this if I can build a bridge between you and my team to make sure this happens. And then I have fantasies of kicking your small dog. Sorry, German Shepherd guy. This is my life. Every company will be different, but here's how I try to place us as AppSec team. We view our position as internal sales, customer service 100%. Similar to like modern IT programs. If your IT company or like your IT team does not see itself as internal sales to the rest of the company, you need to go grab that director and be like, you're 10 years behind. This is how we do things now. Have good customer service. It's a really weird thing. We touch C-level. That sounds gross. I'm going to change that. Product managers, engineers, managers, IT, and sales and GRC. I work with those people weekly. That sounds insane, right? You think I should just be like hacking code all day and running Burp Suite until my fingers bleed. But no, it's like we can produce a massive amount of value. Like we know vulnerabilities better than most people. We can actually portray risk better than GRC can because we see the actual technical side of it as opposed to, I mean, there's technical GRC people, but most of them are more compliance, right? So this is how you build that value. This is how we become one of the most important teams because we're one of the most expensive teams in a company when you start building it out. I do want my team to be loved by the company. It's really important for me. My team is rock stars at our company, like really. Like people, when we fly into Denver, everybody gets together, people want to go out and hang out with a bar with us. And last time we went to like open mic night and went and saw a comedy show, stand-up show together, took a bunch of the people from the company. It's important. I want people to think of us that way because that's how you get stuff done. We should add value to security and everything we touch, and that's a really big thing. If you're not actually adding value, you can tell I have a business background. If you're not adding value, you are not valuable. Oh, that's a hard one to get around when you think like, I'm just fixing stuff. No, you're just wasting money now if it's actually not valuable stuff. So you got to be real poignant on how you look at all those things. Yes, this is my world. I'm a threat modeler because I am a criminal. So I know how to think this way. And other people are like, that's a great skill set. I'm like, this is just because my brain's broken. So AppSec path, the normal one is always get tool, run tool, send vulns to engineering, bitch about them not being ignored. I can't believe these idiots did this, or they don't care about us, and blah, 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 blah. That's how AppSec is, or has been at least, right? That sucks. So threat modeling should help you find real areas of concern and exploitable vulnerabilities. This is what you should start before you run a single tool. This is everything. This is how you should do this before you hire, so you know who to hire, so you know what kind of blind spots you have on your side. What are your weaknesses? You need to build out a procedure for threat modeling so others can learn and implement. You shouldn't be the only person threat modeling. I have every one of my engineers on my embedded teams can threat model now, and they're good at it. They're better than me. They find all kinds of stuff. You shouldn't be threat modeling alone. I usually try and have an engineer, sales engineer, or architect-related thing with threat models. I invite people in that normally wouldn't be there because they think differently. A diverse mindset and a diverse group of people are going to find diverse vulnerabilities. This is an awesome chance to build bridges with engineering, especially if they have never done this before. They get so excited. It's like teach an engineer how to run Burp Suite or take them into a threat modeling meeting, give them a beer. Everybody's so like, yeah, and then we can do this. And did you know that we keep plain text passwords? I'm like, what the shit? No, we don't do that. And then I have to like, reel it back in. But you find that stuff with the engineers. You don't find that stuff you'll find plain text passwords on your own because that's dumb. But you don't find the real vulnerabilities until you're like, oh yeah, we SSH into that box and we all share the same password. Okay, that's another time that my appendix burst when in a meeting, and it's not going to happen though unless you bring them in. So make it fun. Add beer, food, drink, and black hoodies. Give them black hoodies. They think they're hacking. Just give them black hoodie. Be like, here, this is our company black hoodie. Now you're a hacker. Sweet. And this is like my perfect threat model. But that's how it works. Government overlord. So yeah, I made this big joke about the feds last time, and then I didn't read the schedule at RVASec, and the FBI followed my talk. And they were like, I was like, tell my FBI handler, I hope you got my Christmas present. And the guy's on there, he's like, Dave, I didn't get your Christmas present, and you've been bad. And I was like, shoot. So, okay, SDLC, Secure Software Development Lifecycle. Yay, this is what everybody thinks AppSec is, and it is. This is our roadmap. Secure SDLC is implementing a set of controls to secure your software development lifecycle. You threat model first, like I just said. You can't secure what you don't understand. Pushing left is not always the right place to start. I know if there's a salesperson in here, they're like, that's wrong. You need relationships built on implement all these controls. If you do not, you will get ignored. You have to build those relationships first. This is super hard. But like, I know every engineering manager. I know our VP engineering very, very well. I have buy-in from product. I did all of that before I started even running tools or anything. You got to start with one control. You got to plan out the next year, and then you got to constantly adjust when people like throw a fit about it. You have to be flexible. Many things won't work, and you won't understand your work culture until you screw up and you piss a lot of people off. But if you're cool and you're humble and you're like, I'm so sorry, I baked you a turkey, they're going to be like, okay, it's not that bad. He gave us a turkey, whatever. I don't know what you're going to make them. But after implementing control, step back and build a plan for continuous improvement. My KR is every single month. Continuous improvement is a giant one in there. It's boring, but it actually works. These tools, I don't care who you have. You have Snick. It's going to take you, I know it's like sneaky, I don't know. You have that one. It's going to take you a year to get that right. Don't listen to a single salesperson. They're all liars, except ours. They're good. Any of these guys that sell AppSec tools, they take so long to tune. And it's not just like the false positive stuff. It's getting your vulnerability management process down. It's figuring out what is false positives and actually can't be exploited, as opposed to just things, that like, oh, that shouldn't be a big deal, until that third-party library that we had accidentally dropped something, and now they can compound everything, and now we're screwed. It takes a long time to get these things. So continuous improvement is massive, and it builds trust with your engineering team. If they see you suck a little less each quarter on how you addressed vulnerabilities and how much time you wasted of theirs, they're like, okay, those guys are doing their thing. They're maturing. It's a young team. What else did I put in there? If a control is a blocking control, start it as an education and suggestion control. Slowly move it to blocking, to mandatory. Make sure you have buy-in and written policy. Write your policies. That's the stick, right? You don't ever want to use the stick, but you're like, no, you can't write your own crypto, dum-dum. They're like, why not? I'm an amazing developer. Like, it's in the policy. I put that as number one. You were never allowed to do that. It makes a huge difference. But if it's a blocking control, if you're putting something in your CI/CD pipeline, it's a tool, and somehow it has blocking, don't do it. Don't do it for a full year. I know that sounds crazy. Wait to see how many times you would have screwed up prod before you have the balls to block it, really. Like, threat model, take your time on everything. It's really important, because that's a super way to like burn all that value that you made. They're like, you're just wasting our time now. I had to have 22 engineers this weekend roll that back because we couldn't get it out in time, and then we pushed it too fast, and it can get bad. Step for each control. I actually have these written down on my desk. It sounds silly, but I have to remind myself, because I get ahead of myself and just run through things. So you want to learn what we're going to solve, technology we use, what part of the company do we need to understand, enumerate, plan, get all the people involved and start putting everything together, design, look at how to implement the control in your company. It needs to be a holistic approach. Don't just read anybody's book on AppSec and be like, that's how we do it. Think for yourself. You're all intelligent people if you're in AppSec. There's no dummies here. You need to get your approval and your buy-in before you execute. That's a huge, huge deal. And you need to figure out who actually you need that approval and buy-in from. It's a big deal. You miss that one person and you screw up their team and you jam them up, you're going to have a rough day, right? So execute, do your plan, right? And then improve. That's the other thing. You figure out where they're pissed. You go, hey, I'm so sorry I screwed this up. Please let me come back and fix it and make it better for you. Okay, this is my SDLC plan that I like this is the basic stuff, right? These are the controls you want to implement. That's really small, and I don't have glasses on. But yeah, so, SRAs, threat modeling, you got all these different companies in here that you can just buy and do stuff with, and they make your day suck every day. And then you have to have calls with their salespeople every other week, and you just learn to hate them. Sorry, I zoned out a little. But These are the things you have to cover. You know, it's kind of hard. I'm not going to go through all that. There's a million talks about that, but my slides are here. Or if you just hit me up on LinkedIn, I'll tell you what I'm thinking. First control, boom, should be holistic. I like that word. Based on your company, don't start with SAST. That's not holistic. That just pisses everybody off. SAST is a very important tool. That's static analysis, security testing, if you don't know. Super important. Tons of false positives. Makes everybody angry. Don't start with SAST. That is a good way to just plummet your program, and it's expensive. And if you do one, find one that you can tune very easily. That's all. I'm not going to like give brands and stuff. Pick a control with low false, except for Red Canary. You can always use them. Pick control with low false positives for your first one. This is huge. Writing policy to back up your control, like we talked about. You need to be thoughtful. Set your tone for the entire security program. This is so much bigger than you understand in the beginning. That first control is like, if you can kind of go okay with it, people are like, okay, they didn't burn the house down yet, you know. But you will piss someone off. Cookies and beer help. It's true. Okay, this is a trigger warning. Don't get dazzled by shift left. Everybody in AppSec, shift left, shift left. Shut up. This is a horrible way to start. You should shift left after you have a mature program. Sometimes you're better off shifting right. Fewer false positives. The farther right you go, the farther left you go, you have tons and tons of more false positives. Shifting left will still be a goal, but sometimes it's easier to start right. Next controls. Different for every team. Holistic approach. You have a budget and a lot of code. You could try SAST or SCA. I wouldn't say SAST. I just put that in there. I'd say, you know, try SCA. That's a lot better. All your third-party analysis. Are you overwhelmed? Is it just you? And you're like, I'm drowning? Security champions or Slackbot. My Slackbot's gangster. My Slackbot will tell you how dumb you are when you do something, and it'll also give you praise. It's like, hey, good job, buddy. You didn't write your own crypto today. Hired some folks. Yes, we have a team now, embedded security engineers. I'm very passionate about this. We are 1-to-1 right now. That's not realistic for anybody. I mean, that's like, 1 to 3 is fine. You can sit through 3 15-minute stand-ups, right? And you can do that 2 times a week, and you actually know what code is going on. You know what issues the engineers are actually working on at that moment. Massive thing if you have enough people. Is there a fancy new product coming out? Have you talked to your product team? Do you know your product team? If you don't know your product team, get to know them, because those are the guys that are like, we're going to build this thing, and I don't know how engineering works, but we're going to plug stuff into it, and then it's going to do these things, and then everybody's going to lose their data. All right. If you become friends with them, you can threat model or do SRAs right off the bat. Security risk assessments are kind of like old school, you know, but we still do them because they kind of make you look at the engineering and the code and everything, so it can be important. What worked for me, for my first ones, for this last, let's go with Red Canary. That's what this one is. DAST and threat modeling. That's how I started. I love DAST. DAST. It's cheap. No one cares about it. Anybody can buy Burp Suite. Zap sucks. But, you know, it's amazing. Run DAST. You're actually finding real problems in production. Don't run on production if you can't handle it. Like, don't just go, ha-ha, and then you crash production. It's great if you have a safe place. You can run it locally or something like that. But it's a great place to start, because when you do find things, it'll be a manageable list. Like, you run even if it's just burp spider or something like that, it'll run through and it's going to give you like, 30 or 40 things. You're like, oh, okay, one person can go through this and tell which ones are false positives. And then you go, hey, I broke into your system here. Don't do it that way. But it actually gives you something real. And then the threat modeling side is amazing to start that way. If that's your first control, you're going to not only do threat modeling, but you're going to teach each team how to do threat modeling, and you're going to do it with them. That one builds bridges, doesn't cost the company, well, it costs a little time, so that is a real thing. But you can do it, and man, you will find some scary stuff. Got Kubernetes? How many of those pods you think are written as root? I promise you a few of them are. You want to see someone break a container out? Go watch Ian Coldwater. It happens. So you will find some really, really good stuff that way, and you build those relationships, which are super important. Embedded with engineering, like I said a minute ago, I jumped ahead on my slides, sorry. When you're for a mature team and you're growing, this is the most successful thing I've had. If you don't have enough engineers, I have this thing that I call the security task force. So we're a red canary, we're all like bird names, like we're the flock, right? So I keep trying to get them to be the murder squad, because it's like crows and they're black hats, but it hasn't caught on yet. They just think I'm weird. I'm like, let's go murder squad. And they're like, no, David, sit down. But whatever. That's the other way to do it. You can embed these engineers, and they sit in on the stand-ups, and they help with stuff. And it's amazing when you have a security engineer in stand-up, and they're like, hey, how should we connect to this third-party API? And the guy's like, oh, we should do that. And the security guy's like, oh, hey, I think if we do it this way, we don't really have to worry about any security issues, because that way can be good or it can be a little off. And they're like, oh, cool. Thanks for making me not rewrite this entire API connection. It's so powerful to have embedded securities. But not everybody can do that. There's 2 of you. There's 3 of you, right? What do? Get buy-in. Build trust. You don't have to hire 10 security engineers. You can go in, work your butt off, couple years in, your VP of engineering is like, those guys are solid. They've been doing such a good job. Security task force. Get a 2-week sprint rotation with developers on the security team. You will work on real development problems. You'll work on backlog, old tech, whatever you got to patch or whatever. But you have these people for 2 weeks. Let's all run Burp Suite today. Let's destroy some crap. We're offensive security. But these are regular engineers. They leave with a security mindset. They leave that 2-week sprint with like, oh, the security guys do cool stuff. We could do cool stuff. It's like, it's like an advanced version of Security Champions. I hate Security Champions. This is the name of it. Bothers me. It sounds like some real creepy thing. Like, ugh. But that's another way to do this if you don't have the manpower. Then there's the things and the words I wrote. Build trust. Have you seen how many times I said build trust? It's amazing. Tools, yay! What do we want? All the tools. Why? Because we never, ever, ever want to stop looking at false positives for the rest of our lives. Man, I'm like become a minimalist with tools. I'm trying to lower it and lower it and lower it. Even the big name companies, because I spend a lot of money, I'm pulling out some of their newer features because they suck. They're not tested. They're giving me all this trash. They're burning my value right now. They're burning my trust with engineering. And I don't care what I have to do. Like, there's some great, open source stuff out there, like SimGrep open source and even the SNCC open source. And like some of those, they may not be AI and machine learning, which is all BS anyways, but they can you can tune them real easily. So you can be like, okay, I know I have one problem. These group of people keep writing passwords the wrong way and they're not using this, so I can search for that. You can start minimalizing this where you don't have to use these giant companies that just bombard you with crap all day. If I have to sit in one more sales trying to rehire me meeting thing, I'm going to lose my mind. But don't trust the hype. Salespeople can be sketchy. I know, I was one of them. The less tools you do the job adequately, the better. Looking at 17 things a day is the path to the dark side. That's how you turn into that guy from before. Build a plan before you acquire the tools. This is so big. That list of things, that's how I started. And then I had all my team members. There's a lot of us. There's 8 of us. We're a beast mode team because we got buy-in from the beginning, so we had budget. And I'm like, hey, we're going to take a control one at a time, and we're all going to look at and we're all going to compare. And I built a little thing in Excel, and it's like, does this do this? Plus 5 points. Does this do this? Plus 7 points for each control. So I had to be more pragmatic because these sneaky sales vendors know that I like whiskey. And they're like, hey, Dave, we sent you a $100 bottle of whiskey, just for checking our demo out. I'm like, you sneaky. And then it's even worse when you push code. I've written a few rules for some of these companies, and then I start getting their T-shirts, and I'm like, oh, I have T-shirts now. I could use them next year. It's the bad social engineering. We were doing the good social engineering. Spend time, real time testing tools. I spent 30 days on each control minimum. I got POCs from all the people that were supposedly good, and I pounded into them. I looked at everything. We had discussions, like very straight up fights at one point over certain tools because people are passionate about this that are in AppSec, which I encourage. I want us, as long as we're not being rude to each other, to basically yell about things. It's good. We tested all the tools, and then we made really, really rational decisions. And we're already changing some from our second year acquisition stuff. So, that's that continuous improvement side. You're not going to pick, and people lie. They say things can do things that they can't, and then you're like, wow, you're a $1 billion company, and a 3-year-old wrote your API, and it crashes every single day. Cool, I'm glad we gave you $70,000. It's insane. You don't find that stuff out until later because they hide it in the POCs. So be ready to tell people there's a chance we'll roll this over because we don't want to burn our value, right? Tune, improve before you get another tool. Spend some time on it. It doesn't have to be fast. Showing, whoever's doing your budget, VP engineering, C-suite, whatever, CTO, showing them how fast you're moving and how much you've acquired and burned through your budget is not show anything. To us it does because we're like, look at all we did. If you get one tool and then you spend the next month making it perfect as you can before you roll it out, and you're testing it locally and making sure you're not just going to destroy everybody, people up top appreciate that because redoing something engineering-wise costs a lot more than doing it the right time, right? So spend some time. It's a slow process. Don't get worried about it, and explain all those things out front for whoever your buy-in is. No budget, no toys. Yeah. So how do we get budget? Hey, what's our time? Sorry, on this one. 3:45 to 4:40? Okay, cool. We're fine. How do we budget an AppSec program? This really is the internet. If you didn't know this, if you don't work in AppSec with third-party libraries, when that idiot didn't sign the stuff for Ruby last year, we're a Ruby shop, I had an aneurysm. I was like, what are we going to do? We have all these customers, and we have to fix these things, and they can't use it because he didn't change his licensing, and blah, 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 blah. Have backup plans for your third-party libraries, and have them written down. I know that sounds crazy, but I literally have a list of what we have, on an Excel spreadsheet because I'm in tech. And then next to it, I have competitors that I can grab because you can't memorize all this crap. There's so much. So I know okay, we just lost that because of a vulnerability we can't patch. Let's see who we can plug in there. It's work, but it makes things go fast. So sometimes you can't. Open source tools, that's what you got to do. They still cost money. It's just manpower. They cost more for tuning, for all these kind of things. And I'm getting pretty burnt out on a lot of the vendors that build off the open source, and they're like, oh, we built you this amazing GUI, it's going to work better, so you pay us money, and then it doesn't. You're like, cool, sweet. So you really have to decide, what are we going to build, what are we going to buy? It's a really tricky thing. But you can slowly show value, which will earn you budget, but you have to be upfront about it. Be like, I'm going to prove to you that we're a team that's worth money in this company. We're going to do that, and here's my plan. So you don't jam up engineering. You plan everything out, implement controls slowly, and effectively be super open with everybody that has buy-in on this. It's a massive deal. You need to tell people, because they're going to spend $100,000, $200,000. If you're at Amex, where half my team, because I stole them, used to be, they spend $3, $4, $5 million a year on their security tools, right? So earn that trust, and you can. Just be open from the beginning. You got to plan everything out. You got to keep your metrics and findings remediation. We'll talk about metrics. Metrics suck, but I have a few things that help me. And you have to build those bridges. You really do. And you got to keep that in communication. I have one-on-ones with so many people in my company that are 30-minute coffee morning. I have this big espresso machine, so I'm always making espressos and hanging out with people. And it seems like I'm wasting time, and I'm not. When I need to get something done, I'm the person that anybody in security, the whole IT team will go to because I care about people, and we've built relationships and we're friends. Now with some value, you do these things. You got to learn to communicate a business-based audience to a business-based audience. If you can show executives why financially it's good for your company, you'll get a real budget. Being able to communicate effectively with C-suite and board, it's what, that's how you can get an exploit, cost the company how much money. Okay, this is how it works. That's hard to communicate if you're not used to it, if you're just used to working with engineers. I career coach a bunch of people, as part of my wife and I's ministry is get people from poor areas or places where they never heard that you can make real money in tech into tech. And the number one thing I do, and it doesn't matter if you're, black, white, Latino, like whatever, if you're from that area, I make you go to Toastmasters before you even start anything. And people are like, that's weird. I'm like, no, it's not. Do you know how many interviews I have where a guy's smart, but he can't even say his own name because he's never had to like communicate things properly? How are you going to tell the CEO that we're going to lose $40 million if they don't spend $150,000 on engineering right now to fix a problem? That's the difference between a $100,000 AppSec job and a $250,000 AppSec job, is being able to communicate that line. That's the difference between a CISO and like someone who's going to tap out a principal and they're never going to move into any of that stuff. So it's huge. And I used to do bids with my company and I worked across that. And I know I talk like a dumb surfer because I'm from Hawaii and everything, but I know how to get value, get distress. If something's really bad, I can go through and tell people in a way that works for me and works for them. And it sounds silly, but it's massive. Useful metrics. God, I hate metrics. Does anybody here have to build their own metrics? Yes, you feel my pain, bro. They suck so much, and I've lost my mind because I hate Splunk. I don't know the language. I'm always trying to Google it on Stack Exchange. Like, how do you make a pie chart in Splunk? And then I'm like, I hate this. Keyboard against the wall. Okay, this is what I do. They're so hard, but I figured out what metrics need to do. I hacked metrics, at least for my head, because I am so pragmatic. I have to figure these things out so I can follow a path. They need to tell a story. And the social engineering part, what story do they need to tell for who? You have to figure out what that person thinks and what they want from their job. And I've actually asked people this because half the time CISOs will ask you for metrics. And I'm like, what are you trying to get from this? And they don't know. They're just so ingrained in it that they have no idea what they're doing. And you're like, okay, we really need to figure this out before I go and waste a bunch of time in Splunk and cry for the next 6 weeks. So now I make my metrics tell a story, and I make them tell a story that's going to fix the question that needs to be asked by whoever it is asking me for it, and they have to put their time into. I don't ever anymore when someone's like, hey, I want some metrics on that tool. No. I'm not going to waste time on that. Tell me what you want answered, and I will build you a beautiful, colorful story in horrible Splunk dashboards, But that really is what it is, and it's tricky because, it can be the little things like, well, we had this many vulnerabilities last month, and we only have this many this month. And it's like, did that really help us? I mean, it showed that somebody updated one package. What's our risk there? What percentage of risk did we reduce on the company? Then you got to build a few more things because you're like, okay, I'm telling a story. I'm showing the C-suite that we lowered the risk reduction by 15% this quarter, because we knocked out 1,500 critical vulnerabilities that couldn't be exploited, but if something fell apart, they could. You know what I mean? And this is all ethereal. It's a little hard to get in there and figure out. But now you're showing okay, well, if this is real, we might have saved the company $1 million. Okay, you guys are worth a little bit more now. We were ahead because we had all this fixed. When that patch came out, we could actually patch because we're on the correct version of Ruby on Rails right now, instead of 6 years behind because no one will change any of their code. Those kind of things, that's massive because I'd be like, hey, we patched this. We wouldn't have been able to patch it, and we would have got busted on this one. It's like when, what was it called? HTTP smuggling. I found that at our company using Burp. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have to figure this out. And got in there with engineering and spent a bunch of time. It was Amazon's fault, stupid Cloudflare. But then I called them, and had it fixed. But it was one of those things. If we wouldn't have had our ducks in the row and we weren't organized, and I wouldn't have already proved value, when I called Cloudflare, they probably wouldn't kick rocks. But we were big dog. It wasn't Rectanary. But those kind of things are huge. So you need to have some sort of view on things. Education and training is massive. I'm in charge of this at our company right now for this quarter. It's the hardest thing there is. But I'm so passionate about it, but I'm also so burnt out on it because it's so tricky. But education and training can't suck. I don't know how to tell anybody else that. You know, like I've bought the big vendors and I've used our own, and I don't even know what I wrote on here actually. Social engineer a security culture in your company. That's so important. Onboarding from the beginning, you need to do it. Be passionate about teaching. I'm just running through this because I'm going to change it. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's all true still. This is where I'm at right now with it though, because I just revamped this again. I have a company that gives the little training where the engineers can go in and we do a quarterly training and they have to do their AppSec training and blah, 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 blah. And they do it because I begged them. Literally, they didn't. They like threw a fit in the beginning. But I had enough invested that I'm like, bro, how many times have I got the bar tab for you guys? Like, you're going to do this shit. It's going to take you an hour a quarter. And then I also, because the new guys don't know any better, everybody that comes on gets that training. They have, like, I built out a special one just for onboarding to make sure we hit all the basics for our code base, what, like, we could see them introducing. You don't need to hit them with a bunch of stuff, like, that they can't use. If you cannot be SQL injected, don't make them train on SQL injection. But now, I built a couple CTFs that we all did, and now I'm doing some stuff where I'm looking at all the metrics from that, right? Seeing where we fail over and over, what stuff we actually hit on. And I'm like, okay, well this team works for Linux agent. We built our own, you know? And this team works mostly with the Microsoft stuff. And this team is like our cloud team. They all have a security engineer. So the next step for us is they're going to do lunch and learns with their team that are pinpointed to their weakest points. So it's actually interesting to them because they know they suck at it. Every engineer knows they suck at what they suck at, like, especially if you just get busted on it, you know, with multiple times with different tools. So now we're pinpointing, we're getting a little bit better, but it's still a long way to go. This is the hardest one. If you can figure out how to train people and make security fun in your company, and every company has a different culture, you're going to win. Because then, I mean, my whole thing is to work myself out of a job. I've already almost done that. I hired a lot of people who are smarter than me. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just go to sales, make giant money now. But it's the same thing with this stuff. If I can make all of my engineers into security people, why would I even want to be around anymore? I'm okay, I'll go do something else. I'll make canoes. Social engineering and security culture. Good social engineering. Learns what is beneficial to both parties. This is my sales background. Knows the audience. Has buy-in from all parties needed. Builds a culture based on trust and visibility, servant leadership. Bad social engineering. Self-focused goals. Are you just trying to get stuff done for you? If you're not adding value to whoever you're doing it to, then it's not good. Does not benefit all parties involved. Manipulation, zero visibility. Uses the stick instead of the carrot. So I was going to be a physical penetration guy. I can break into anything in the world. Like, I grew up, first job was a locksmith. I love all that crap. Then I had kids. I'm like, oh, okay, I actually want to be home for my kids. But it's a massive thing, the bad side of social engineering. I'm very good at it. I can walk in anywhere, even with this big, stupid mustache. When I was like 15, I snuck into tons and tons of concerts by just walking backstage and acting like I was supposed to be there and that kind of stuff. That is the side, though, that I see in security. They're just like, oh, man, you know, you need to do this. And like, they're like, Dave told me to be nice to you. It's like, no, you have to offer them something in return. There has to be something there. Yeah, I'm going to take you out and, you know, make you talk to people and eat good food and drink beer and stuff like that. But that's not me getting them to do it. I'm always giving them value somehow. And you have to figure out what it is for yours. You know, I've had instances where we fix code. It makes their life 1,000 times better because their code's more organized. They have testing in place now, and they're not getting jammed up when they're trying to push to prod anymore because it's not a tangled mess. That's huge value. You just got to figure out what it's going to be for your little team that you're working with. Yeah, we went through all this stuff. Continuous improvement. Gosh, I'm on this next quarter. I'm running continuous improvement. I hate it because it's vulnerability reduction, all that kind of stuff. But it's so important. One shitty control can ruin your whole program. Constantly improve everything you implement. Why would anybody take it seriously if the team doesn't care, which happens all the time, right? You have sloppy code, you have sloppy tools, you have sloppy findings, you don't know. Why are they going to respect you, right? You know, it's like one of those things like, I'm definitely that guy that like makes my bed in the morning, even though I'm like the biggest dirtbag. I like lived in vans half my life, and I'm like, I'm gonna make my bed in the morning, and this is gonna, you know, you can respect me now. But it's the same thing. You gotta like take care of your stuff. Refine the obvious things first. Get a recurring meeting with engineering managers to critique controls, huge. Get a meeting once a month. Please tell me what I'm doing that's making you angry and sucks. And I say it just like that. And they always go, oh yeah, this is my time to kick you right in the balls, Dave. But it's so important because you get honest feedback, and they love it. They're like, oh, you actually care about this stuff, instead of fighting in like a stupid meeting about it. Refine controls by studying your super sweet new metrics. Automate everything you can because working sucks. Be customer focused to your engineering team and be objective. Just because it's your favorite tool does not mean it does not suck. Usually it's always my favorite tool that I have to like roll back. I'm like, oh, dang it, I failed again. And I've failed many times. Some ways forward. Yeah, easy stuff. Try to refine the most obvious things first. Wait. Is that a different one? Oh yeah, it was, sorry. Oh no, that was it. I didn't even know I hit it. Okay, yeah. So, and that's pretty much it. It's a weird talk, right? It's AppSec without all the cool technical stuff, and I didn't show you how many times I've broken something. Hacking people is a hell of a lot harder than hacking code, but is the most important thing, and that's why AppSec engineers are making more than just about anybody right now. It's stupid money. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm super open to this stuff. If you ever need questions asked or anything like that, I'll talk with you. If you need like business stuff, I have a consulting company thing. But does anybody have any questions? Oh, whoa, okay. We'll go this way. Is that cool?
Yeah, and from your experience, have you noticed any training methods that typically work better than others?
For education?
Yes.
Yes, if there are any training methods that work better than others in my experience. No. You know what? The only thing I've found is an individual approach on trying to figure out what helps people and how to get them excited. That security task force thing does more than any of the educational stuff. If I can sit down like our CTFs that we have, because we have quarterly get-togethers at our work because we're all remote. Our CTF hackathon stuff people get so excited about that kind of stuff. And then you can be like, oh, okay, cool. And like while you're there, because you're actually involved, you're like, hey, let's do this. I'm going to show you guys how to use burp real quick. Or, like I'm going to show you guys how to throw a SCA scan on all your code real quick to look at your third-party libraries. Like that kind of stuff goes super good. And it's almost like not teaching, but teaching. You're secretly teaching. Yeah, so does that help at all?
Yeah, from your past experience, do you think growing security culture and trust is transactional, transformational in leadership? Like, is it always give and take, or do you think people can get behind the idea and they kind of naturally adopt it and grow it themselves?
Yeah. At my company, they get behind the idea. My CEO wrote half the code. We're all security people at Red Canary. I'm cheating. Most places, no. You're not going to get the C-suite of a non-technical company behind security, but you can learn to communicate risk to them on a financial level to the point where they're like, we don't like this, but we're scared to death of these guys. And it sounds bad, but that's the only way that I've seen it really work. And I've sat down in meetings where people hired me onto consulting, and I talked to the CEOs, and I went through some stuff, and I'm like, I'm going to take my consulting fee for this meeting, but we're going to cut it off from that because you guys aren't ready for security. And that's gnarly because you think I just take money, but I actually have, some ethics. But it is no point. I mean, I have kids. I don't want to waste my time with people who aren't trying to better their business, right? So yeah, it's that threat modeling thing. I threat model everything. My wife hates it. She's like, you're such a damn nerd. But I threat model everything. I would look at my audience, see what their weaknesses are, see what the value that we can give them. Okay. This guy.
So maybe a dumb question, but just to confirm, there isn't like a security plus for developers, or it's just some kind of class, or just general hey developers, this is how you use security?
Oh, there's 100. The problem is developers don't want to do them. It slows them down. Developers want to hit their KPIs or KRs, whatever, and move on to their next cool little feature they want to build, right? If a developer usually has any interest in security, they become an AppSec engineer. It's very difficult and you're just giving them more time. At least all the developers I know work too much. And they have hard deadlines. And if you're like, hey, we have this 5-hour course that you need to do, Or like Security Plus is like a 25-hour course. They're like, kick rocks, nerd. Like, that is not happening. I'm building code. I'm doing my thing. I've been doing this for 20 years. Don't tell me what to do. And it's a different mentality. Like, you have to get them to care about security. And then it's almost self-learning. Like, it really is. Like, I genuinely think if you can hack that culture in there, they stop caring about the little education you have to do, and they start doing their own education. Does that answer you? Kind of? Sorry. None of my answers are like, yay. Oh, yeah, these guys. So I'm going to go. Dun, 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 dun. Is one of you blue team? Interested in blue team? Okay, here we go. I don't want to give you something you don't want. Sweet. Those are for asking good questions and sticking around for the last talk. It's like 5 of you. Awesome, guys. Again, I'm David. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.